We're off to a great start. Can everybody hear me? Good morning. Welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District Electoral Area Services Committee. My name is Kate Stanford, and I will be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to acknowledge that. We'll just get this figured out. Okay. Is it okay? I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the territories of the Squamish and the Seychelles Nations, and we're honored to be here. We have an agenda here. Do I have any changes or additions? Looking around, don't see any. Given that, I'd like, so I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Good seconder, all those in favor? Next, I'd like to have a motion to accept all reports as presented. And that passes as presented. And so let's start. We begin with a presentation. And the presentation today is from the Official Community Plan Committee from Roberts Creek. And it's Mark Bailey that's presenting. So if you'd like to come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I realize the agenda says the Roberts Creek Official Community Planning Committee, but this is actually a presentation on behalf of the Roberts Creek Community Association. Good afternoon, Chair, Directors, Madam CAO, and senior staff. My name is Mark Bailey. I am presenting today on behalf of the Roberts Creek Community Association. We are appearing before you with a single purpose: to support staff in assessing a policy gap that they have already publicly identified. Before I proceed, I want to be precise about the scope of our request to ensure there is no confusion regarding jurisdiction. We are not asking for a service expansion. We are not asking the SCRD to take on new liabilities, create new service functions, or trigger an elector assent process. We are strictly focusing on your existing planning authority. We are asking the committee to refer this to staff to assess whether existing land use bylaws and OCP policies can be better utilized to address the critical gap regarding cumulative effects. This conversation began on December 18th, right here in this room. During the review of the planning staff's report, a frank discussion emerged about the limits of our current tools. Staff candidly identified a vulnerability in the system, a critical gap in our ability to assess cumulative effects. In plain English, staff acknowledged that while we check every box for individual lots, we lack a mechanism to verify if the regional water system remains healthy as those lots add up. Why is closing this gap important? We do not need to look at worst-case scenarios to see the value here. Right now, the EAS committee and staff are undertaking the OCP renewal. You are drawing the maps for the next 20 years of growth. However, without a cumulative effects framework, you are making those decisions without full visibility of impacts on our watershed systems. UBC research confirms that 34% of our summer water supply originates from specific recharge zones within the watershed. Understanding cumulative impacts on these systems helps inform growth planning decisions. Closing this gap ensures that when you vote on the new OCP, you are doing so with full visibility of the hydrological reality. We are simply asking for a standard referral so staff can assess if there are feasible ways to close this gap using existing tools. We are suggesting that staff use Roberts Creek as the pilot for this assessment. We offer this for 3 practical reasons. First, the baseline data is ready. We have peer-reviewed UBC research specific to this watershed, which provides hydrology analysis now. Second, the community capacity is ready. We have provided a 161-page technical brief. This is offered entirely as a resource for staff to use at their discretion. Third, the timing aligns. With Phase 2 of the OCP renewal underway, staff assessment now could inform whether a cumulative effects framework is a viable tool for the new OCP. This also aligns with existing policy. The Roberts Creek OCP, which this board approved, already contains watershed protection policies. In 2018, you successfully operationalized climate policies through Development Permit Area 1A. We're asking staff to assess similar implementation pathways for existing watershed policies. In closing, our request is designed to be routine governance. Staff identified this as a critical gap. By referring this back to staff today, they can assess options for addressing the gap that they themselves raised. You are not committing to a solution. You are enabling your experts to evaluate feasibility and report back. We respectfully request that a director move the following: that staff be directed to assess options for addressing the cumulative effects gap identified in the December 18th, 2025 planning report and report back to committee with findings and recommendations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Directors, do I have any questions of the presenters? Director Bax.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey, for that presentation. I know that the Community Association and the OCPC have been working on this for some time, at least since December 18th, when this was brought forward. I ask what staff, what's the opinion of staff on this this request and the information that they've brought forward.
Staff, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Staff would comment that the board's directed scope for the OCP renewal project includes a climate and environment pillar, and there's scope to consider these topics in that focus area. Thanks.
Any other questions? Director Lee?
Yeah, you mentioned existing DPAs. Are you suggesting expanded DPAs somewhere, or just exactly when you mentioned that, what do you envision?
Thank you, Director Lee. We actually wanted to be very careful not to envision anything. This is a referral to staff to employ their expertise to answer questions such as these ones.
Do you have a follow-up? No?
Probably a comment.
Okay.
We've been working with the town of Gibson's trying to figure out how we can do watershed governance and haven't really found a solution yet. So if the people have ideas that are practical, I guess, but I'm not sure what a referral to staff would do when we've been talking about it for, well, 7 years that I've been here.
So that was just a comment from the director. So any other questions?
I've got a comment.
All right, I will be bringing forward a motion to refer to the OCP process, and I'm probably going to me, it looks like I should be bringing it forward as item number 6 on our current agenda. And so I'm looking for some guidance on whether that motion should come forward now or later in the meeting.
I think it is at your direction, Director, that you can do either way. Meanwhile, if there is any more questions to the presenters.
Yeah, I mean, concerns about our watershed are not new, obviously. This has been for decades. Well, I won't say a war, but it has been a battle that the community has been waging to protect our watershed. And the group that has had the most involvement and done the most research on this is the Conservation Association. So have you been in touch with them to align your efforts?
Yes, we've absolutely, I believe it's Suzanne that we've been in touch with from that organization. And I know that both the RCOCPC and the RCCA have had conversations with the Conservation Authority regarding the watershed. And realizing that the watershed is obviously an important issue to most, if not all of us, we have essentially used. I'm not exaggerating when I say in the order of hundreds of hours we have devoted between the RCOCPC and the XRCCA to come up with the 161-page technical brief. The technical brief is not intended to be a proscription. It's intended to be a scaffold that staff can use at their own direction to perhaps save some time in addressing specifically this gap. So we're not asking for watershed protections, although we would love them. We're merely asking staff to address the gap that they themselves identified in December.
Yeah, the SCRD has raised the issue of cumulative impacts previously. We had at least one motion go through UBCM asking the province to assess and consider cumulative impacts because it's an important gap. But this is a province-wide problem. Degraded watersheds is a province-wide problem. The province is responsible for regulating drinking water, and they are also responsible for regulating forestry, and they need to step up. And we shouldn't be fighting these battles one regional district or one electoral area at a time. We need a provincial strategy. So while some of this can be addressed to some extent in our OCPs, this needs to go to the province, to our MLA, to the ministers, etc. Our OCPs may, to some extent, regulate activities on fee simple land, but we don't control Crown land. And our aspirational goals in our OCPs have limited impact. The community keeps coming to the regional district to try and find workarounds to fill the gap of a lack of forward-thinking provincial policy, which just is very frustrating for everyone concerned. My current OCP has an aspirational park. It's not actually a park, but the community wants to protect this block of land, so it was labeled as a park in our OCP. That doesn't give it any protection, unfortunately. It merely signals that the community is concerned. And so while I appreciate this, and of course, much of this falls within the scope of the OCP review that's going on right now, I really think that this should be taken forward to the province. Thanks.
Well, it sounds like the director from Elphinstone is working on a resolution for UBCM.
Done so many.
I know you have. So we could absolutely look at that, and there's an upcoming AVICC conference that we can discuss with other members within that. And I wanted to ask a question about the existence of this technical brief and where can it be accessed. I believe the Director Gabias has accessed it. It's within our reading files, is it now? And how can staff access it? Do they have access to the reading files that are put together for the board?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. If there's no other questions from this board.
Before you put a motion forward for consideration, I would just like to also encourage these groups to consider advocacy to the appropriate provincial areas because provincially there are options with cumulative effects. It's being used as a monitoring process for the Alcatsum Howe Sound Biosphere region, and that's part of their structure. So that's the Howe Sound Area F is part of that. How they're managing and dealing with what are the goals in the end is an ongoing process, but you can see a lot of the background material of how they've determined what their criteria is for cumulative effects at a regional spatial level. So that's one of the things that's being done as part of the Biosphere Initiative. So that's something to consider, and I do really think that focusing on the provincial advocacy, which we are all working together on, will help in the long run in these kind of asks. So, I think the information that we have here will also be able to work with within our OCP process, and you'll see that coming back. But also there's other levels of advocacy that this could be useful for. So, Director Bax.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's an advocacy that we can bring forward at the various conferences that we attend. Hopefully we can craft something in time for September. But I would move that we refer the information brought forward by this delegation to the OCP process.
And we've got a seconder. Any other questions, comments? Director Lee, you have a comment?
Well, I will vote for it, but I'm 100% sure it's already being considered, but what the heck, we might as well go for it. Okay.
Well, it's good to have these additional information that we'll be asking for anyway during our next phase of the OCP process. So it's getting a jump on that kind of request. So that's good. Okay, if we're all ready, all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, carrying on. We've got the official community plan renewal project, a financial update, and this is a request from the board. So I'm not sure who's speaking to this. GM Hall, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I hope the report speaks for itself. It provides information about project finances. It responds to the wording of the directive to provide the information requested. And I'll note that the way that the figures are presented is the best attempt to fit with what was asked. There are footnotes responding to how some of the things are split out, because I know that project budget information is provided through a number of formats like our corporate work plan. The way it's presented here is unique in responding to what was requested. Summary statement, at present, the project is on budget, and staff are happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Director Bax, question to staff.
Just a question that's probably within the report that I haven't quite seen. I see on page 9 that there's the list of the 4 years. What year are we in? Are we in year 3?
Staff, can you confirm where we're at in the project?
That list was what was articulated at the time that the project was initially approved. We are currently, I don't have the graphic of the timeline that is often included with our status reports, but we are on track for completion of the second phase of engagement, the milestone being end of March, and presentation of a framework before the summer, leading to deliverables from the project in 2027, enabling adoption before the end of 2027. Thank you.
So year 3, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, Director Lee?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was trying to relate our staffing to the, what I would call a business case, and it wasn't clear to me what was being counted and what wasn't in the report. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I got quite a different total when if I interpreted what was in the report correctly, which I kind of doubt I did because it's not exactly clear. As an example, I show that we started with 3 people back in we approved them in 2023, but we didn't work them till 2024. And then it starts talking about adding incremental staff, and so I end up with figures like 4.25, 6.25, 6.75, working on the OCP in 2027. I get a figure quite a bit higher. I get a figure of almost 4 million as a cost of the work that we are being done on the OCP. And I also think that from a note I read, we're not including the staff that are pulled in on temporary basis for expertise. So it kind of confused me. I don't know if the business case traditionally, if we do that, or if I've got the figures wrong, but it's not clear to me.
So Director Lee, there's a lot of numbers that you've included in that. So I'm hoping that staff in general will be able to respond. The CAO Pro has put her hand up, so she'll be able to respond. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to give a general answer in regards to how the regional district is moving towards tracking larger projects like this. So I think this was a good exercise for us to illuminate the difference between incremental approval from the project and what we use within our existing staff complement or base budget. So as we move towards trying to include projects that are in a more holistic view when we bring them to the board, meaning what existing staff is going to work, this particular report highlights that when we started or had it approved in 21-22 as the project evolved, that too, the financial tracking and how we account for those are different. So hence what some of the directors alluding to is trying to combine those existing staff complement to the incremental increases. And so what is the overall project cost? So we are moving towards that, and especially trying to be transparent about what a total project cost is. So this is staff's best attempt to gather the information that we've tracked thus far.
Does that help you a little bit? I think going forward, we'll be able to provide
Yes,
clearer
I think it's
lines.
a matter of policy and just exactly how we do our accounting and reporting out. And the suggestion I just heard was that this is our standard right now.
So there'll be implications moving forward on how this is presented.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one as well because this is primarily an expense project which will not be capitalized. So, it's one of those fringe ones as well. But business cases should talk about expense and capital and the total cost to the corporation, so we know where we're investing. It's money, whether it's staff wages or not. It's money that we need to understand that we're spending on what we're spending it on.
And in addition to the cost benefit of how the project will help us
Yes,
in
you
the
need
end.
the
So we have to be clear on
cost-benefit
that.
aspect as well. And anyways, I don't think that it would make any difference to our decision. So I believe we're committed. We're going ahead. I'm not pushing this at all. I'm just curious.
Now I'm moving to, okay. So Director McMahon.
Oh, I have lots of questions as always, but for instance, on page 10, there are the estimates for contributions from other departments. Are those contributions being tracked? And what future reporting back will we be getting on this project?
Staff.
Thank you, Chair. So building on CAO Pro's comments, our approach to monitoring and reporting on non-capital projects is evolving. I can say that many of those contributions are tracked, and that is what enabled the staff costs that are reported on page 11 to be reported. And in terms of future reporting, we will continue to report on the project budget through the budget monitoring process and corporate work plan. And I suppose we are also providing project status reports to committees. Thank you.
Director Gabius.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I want to say a big thank you to staff for working on this. That was a quick turnaround. I wasn't expecting it to come so quickly. So it's really great to see all the information compiled so we can have a clear picture of when it started and where we're at now, and understanding this is all projects are complex, but this one seems especially complex. And kind of highlights the value of the new corporate work plan that is being implemented. I think that's going to be a real big help in helping us keep track of how we're spending the money. And yeah, happy to hear that the project is on budget and on track. And it is a really great project, valuable project that I'm glad we're doing. I mean, just with the delegation this morning, also highlighted the necessity of this this project. And I also wanted to highlight on page 11 the in-kind services that were provided. That's really wonderful that we were able to get this great information without a cost to the taxpayer. It's fantastic. Great collaborations. And yeah, so very grateful for that report. Gives me a better idea. I put that motion forward. Gives me a better idea where we're at, and then we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
Right. So OCPs are driven by provincial requirements. And we had some grant funding, but it wasn't directly related to the OCP, if I remember correctly. So the province gives us requirements, especially around housing, but they are largely not separately funded. They come from us, right? It seems like a great deal of money. On the other hand, if we were doing 7 OCPs separately, we would be running up some pretty big bills and a lot of staff time as well. So, you know, we have to bite the bullet here. But I was looking at the emerging issues section here where there are scope management pressures. For instance, the engineering review of wastewater treatment plants. And I wonder, you know, how much this is worth. If these plants are small and they only deal with a handful of properties, is it worth us spending a lot of money on reviews of potential SHMU zoning changes? If I suppose my real question here is, are these scope management issues going to come back to the board for some kind of a decision?
Is that clear, staff, what's being asked?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's possible that these will come back. Staff are not anticipating very substantial costs, material costs related to the first point there, and we are continuing to work with the province relating to their expectations about proving out compliance with SHMU requirements. And the second one will certainly, the topic will come up as we bring you updated project information at the end of the second phase of engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Lee?
Yes, Director McMahon touched on another subject that I believe I got from reading this, and that is PEP 2, for instance, we spent all the money, but PEP 2 isn't finished. So we're now using this to complete the PEP 2 work. And it looks the same with the small housing. We had a grant, we used it all, but we didn't get it done. So we're adding it to this budget now. It's kind of confusing. It feels like we're hiding projects that are overrun and sticking them where we can't see them, which kind of confuses me a little, but we approved that already to do that. So it's not that we didn't know. It's just in plain English here. So that's just a comment. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's implications of how we're asking for information. If staff wouldn't mind just commenting on whether or not these projects are in here because they weren't completed or they're in here because they were part of the project. If that's a comment or in reference to the PEP 2 and other projects you were speaking to.
Thank you, Chair. The scope of projects that are undertaken by staff is driven by the board's direction. And so staff wish to be very clear that the scope of the OCP renewal project, it has changed through time, that is true, but it has been, each of those changes is supported by direction from the board. And that includes changes to the scope, changes to the focus, changes to the timeline, and changes to the funding sources. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions about this financial update for the official community plan process? Director Lee.
I probably sound overcritical, but I do appreciate such a clear report. It's a very complicated subject, and it did bring my knowledge current, and so I appreciated it. It was well done.
Thank you. So I don't see any more comments. This was a report for information only, no necessary actions of motions coming out. So at the board's pleasure, I'd like to move on to 4.2, the Advisory Planning Committee. Operations model changes for consideration. So that's starting on page 14 of the package, and GM Hall, I'm assuming you're speaking to this.
Thank you, Chair. So as directed, staff have brought forward an implementation plan for changes to the APC operating model. This is our best attempt to balance access, volunteer support, cost of delivery, and impact of this aspect of the planning system. What's offered can be delivered using currently approved resources, with the caveat that there are a large number of variables that will drive the actual uptake or demand on those resources. So staff are proposing to monitor that demand for sustainability and report back. And there are a number of very specific operational things recommended, and staff are seeking direction on next steps for implementation. Thank you.
Director Bax.
Thank you. I'd just like to commend staff on working on this one and correcting what I thought was a really difficult schedule that the APCs worked under last year, and moving the meetings to these locations and at these times, I think, is a really brilliant idea. I'll wait for Director McMahon to speak before I move.
Okay, Director McMahon.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. It's so in the timeline, which days would the APCs be meeting? Like first, beginning of the month, end of the month? middle of the month. I wasn't quite clear about that.
Could you clarify, please, Steph?
I'll do my best, noting that the way that the recommendations are worded is kind of as a target, and we'll see how close we can get pending board direction on this. But so the proposal for implementation here is that the meetings be changed to the first week of the month. That best synchronizes with the current schedule, which may change, for the Electoral Areas Services Committee meetings. As noted in the report, not all APC matters involve recommendations that flow to Electoral Areas Services Committee. So it's an imperfect solution, but acknowledging the direction that was provided previously to staff on this, it appears to be better than the current situation. And the actual order and days of the week to be considered depends somewhat on the venues that are prescribed. Something like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in that first week of the month. The order to be determined based on availability of space is indicated in point B2. Thank you.
Director Lee, and then I'm going to add a few comments too.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Area A has got a very definite preference for later in the evening. We have several younger working people and with kids, and so they generally like to do it after dinner and after the kids are looked after. So a 6:30 or a 7 is preferred date for Area A, and they have long distances to travel as well. You know, they come from Egmont, they come from the end of Francis, they come from Daniel Point. So we would be looking for a 6:30 or 7 ideally, but this is awesome. It's meeting most of our concerns.
I'll just jump in here quickly. I really appreciate the level of attention to detail and attention to needs that staff are presenting to the APCs here. It's an iterative process. This could be, needs could change in the next APCs. I am a little concerned about how much time and effort goes into personalizing the experience for each APC, and I don't see that necessarily stopping as needs change. Having some experience with how the AV equipment, the owls work or don't work in different places, again, that requires a level of expertise and attention. So one of my questions is roughly how much are owls and the equipment that it takes to run these darn things? I didn't notice the cost line.
Thank you, Chair. So the implementation model that's proposed here makes use of existing equipment that SCRD owns, equipment that's permanently installed in facilities, and would require, as noted on page 19 under financial considerations, the acquisition of one additional camera and portable screen, which is estimated at $3,100. And in preparing this report, staff worked with our information technology and our communications sections and identified that there are corporate benefits to acquiring that material, and that existing resources are sufficient for that level of service. If additional equipment is required, then there may be more questions or requests coming forward, but based on what we've assessed so far, that will meet the requirements that are outlined in the recommendations. Thank you.
So just as a quick follow-up, it's also, this is a reminder, these are some of the hidden costs to the official community plan process. They're also some of the benefits, because we will be acquiring equipment, supporting better public input. So you can see how this flows into a project that wouldn't necessarily be covered by any budgeting tracking. So, in the end, I think this supports the program. So I have a few more questions. Director McMahon, and then Director Bax, and then Director Lee.
Yeah, I gave this quite a lot of thought yesterday, and I started because we have been meeting in person, and we haven't had any formal hybrid arrangement, but we have had lots of informal hybrid workarounds. And, I'm not even sure that Area E needs an owl because we have people with laptops, and if someone is unable to attend, we are usually able to loop them in. And they don't need to actually see the meeting. They only need to be able to hear very clearly what's going on at the meeting and be able to contribute to the meeting. So I think that we can make it work, possibly in a lower tech way at GAC with Area E. The time is constrained, but on the other hand, the director's report is not reflected in the minutes of the meeting, and we can simply adjourn our formal meeting, and go down the hall and continue with the director's report in a less formal discussion after the proper business of the meeting is complete. So I think this will work. Yeah, okay, I'll stop there.
So are you ready to make a motion? I just want to make sure everybody else has had their comments. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the idea of the first week of the month. I try to carve that out for other things that I do because we don't usually have meetings. But my thinking is that in order to get something that's in our second board meeting onto the agenda or as a referral to the APC, it will not work as in the first week of the month on every month. And a lot of months it will, but not every month. I just look through the calendar for the year, and the response, the recommendations that come back from our APCs usually appear on our Electoral Area Services Committee first. And so if we place the APC meeting in the second week of the month, then there's going to be time for it to appear on our EAS agenda. And the last board meeting of the month will have time for a referral to the APC for the following month. And so if you look at it logistically, I would recommend that rather than the first week of the month, that we do it in the second week of the month, the second Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But that's just an idea that I'd like to put forward, and I'll leave it up to staff to figure out what's going to work best. I do have to try to make money otherwise too. But I am moving the recommendations as they appear on page 14.
So without any amendment?
Without.
Okay.
The recommendation does not, it does say the first week. Sorry. Oh, you have staff.
Go ahead, Corporate Officer, because it was seconded, so.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. I don't think I'm as confident that that timeline would work to make the agenda. The minutes need to go through an approval process, first with the APC chair, and then it will come to staff, and then we need to do a review of those minutes before they make it onto the agenda. So if the Electoral Area Services Committee is the third week, the agenda is published the second week of the month.
Thank you for that insight. So I'd move it without any amendments.
Do you have a comment?
Yeah, just
Thank
a
you,
quick comment. Yeah,
Director Cabias.
Yeah, let's not let perfection get in the way of progress, I guess. It's really great to see how far, how much staff has done in order to accommodate the APCs. And I think once you start including staff, I think that was a request, an initial request from the APCs to have staff present in the meetings to answer questions and help them with their decisions and their recommendations, sorry. So once you do that, then it creates other constraints, but I think staff is doing really great job trying to make it work and as efficiently as possible. I think 7:45 p.m. might not be ideal in Half Moon Bay, but let's give it a try. And there's always the hybrid option. So if people don't want to drive in the dark, et cetera, they can do that until we have our new hall at Connor Park. But yeah, really thanks to staff, and then and there's also, like as Director McMahon was saying, there's ways to maybe take some of do the director's report afterwards, so that the meeting time is really concentrated on the material that needs to be you have to go through. That's what I'm trying to say. So like just really thank you to staff, and then we'll hopefully that works for all APCs, and then we'll go along with that. But yeah, thank you.
Great. If there's no other comments, that was a motion that was seconded. And we're ready to vote. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. So our next item is a request for decision 4.3. It's a referral for the LCRB lounge area endorsement for the meadery. Senior Planner Kobervitz, if you would like to start, if you've got any introductions, that would be great.
Thank you, Chair. Just a brief introduction. This report concerns a revised referral from the LCRB, the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, for Foragers Meadery at 801 Leak Road. The applicant is seeking a lounge area endorsement, including an outdoor patio, to be added to their pending liquor manufacturer license for the facility. A previous application did include a special event area endorsement, which has now been removed. Staff recommends supporting the lounge area endorsement with conditions to limit indoor capacity to 30 persons and outdoor patio capacity to 40 persons, and to have a condition to prohibit outdoor amplified music. This proposal aligns with zoning, OCP policies, and ALR regulations, and staff have considered the potential impacts related to parking, noise, and community concerns. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Directors, any questions to staff? Not seeing any. We have seen this before. Director McMahon?
Yeah, I'm actually relieved to see the somewhat reduced scale of this request, given the parking constraints in that area, which are pretty severe. So this looks like a potential win here.
Sorry. Director Back.
Can I move that you get a new microphone?
Yeah, it's I'm struggling with this one.
But I will move the recommendations as they appear on page 21.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? We've got a seconder. And we all ready to vote? All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much. So our next one is request for decision 4.4. Thank you. This is better. Thank you. Just a lighter touch required. So our next report is options for advancing additional parks projects in 2026. And if staff would like to introduce this, and we can discuss from there.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide the board with options for how additional parks projects could be resourced for inclusion in the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. This report is provided in follow-up to the November 20th, 2025 board recommendation requesting staff to report back with these options. And thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Directors, questions, please, comments. This is a complicated decision.
Uh-oh.
Director Bax, you'd like to
I'm
start?
just surprised that, that I read things in these reports that it's a multi-year project. It's surprising to me that we approach every bridge like it's the first bridge ever built. That there should be some kind of, maybe someone here on the Sunshine Coast, we have enough people that do build bridges that we can lean on. I know that park staff is not building these bridges on their own, that if we put out to tender, that we're gonna get people that know how to do this kind of thing. And I'm just wondering, I know there's a lot of red tape that goes along with these things, but it's still surprising.
Do you want an answer from staff, or are you just commenting?
Just comment.
Thank you. Director McMahon.
This is interesting for me because my ox is not being gored directly here, although it might be as collateral damage when other things slide. I have really incredibly mixed feelings. We've put a lot of things off pending the Parks Review. I have a suspicion the Parks Review is going to tell us we need more staff, which is what we're being told now. So at some point, I suspect we're just going to have to bite the bullet and hire more staff in the Parks Department, because we are very lean for the number of parks that we're trying to take care of. But I'm hoping that one of the directors who is more directly impacted here would weigh in with their opinion.
Director Lee, and then I'll put myself on the list, as my ox is on life support right now.
I think this is a very safe proposal. We have so much park stuff that we're behind on. And with these, I suspect that if we go with asking the community to do it, and we just manage it, that we can keep the cost way down and get stuff done that needs doing. Because parks are nice to have, but the community's got to kick into those nice to have rather than all taxpayers. So I think that's the plan behind all of this stuff. The Catherine Lake and Dan Bosch. I'm sure the Vinebrook Bridge, we can find helpful people to do that for us. Kleindale Bridge, same thing. So I think we might as well get started. I'd like to see us get started. We put this off for a lot of years. And it's, as Director McMahon said, it's very apparent we need a few more people in parks. So I think the plan will probably say more than this when we finally get it done. There's other parks that I'd like to see worked on as well. These are just the ones that the community is most vocal about. So, but I won't make a motion yet until the comments are over.
Staff, do you have any response to that?
Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of general comments. It is never the intent to pit one area against another, ever. When we look at our work plan and our parks, we do try to look at the geographical, where things are located, and try to chip away everywhere. So I just want to say that's not this intent. And what the other thing, as mentioned, I think in a previous report that came forward, we also look at other things like complexity and who is involved in ownership and who needs to be involved in decision making as we work through these projects that we have. Another comment would be, I appreciated what Director Lee said, because I think we have very old assets in parks. We are way behind the 8 ball here. And so we are playing a game of catch up, reactiveness. It's very challenging to be proactive in nature because of the list that already exists, to Director Lee's point. these are just the ones that you wanted us to bring forward. I believe in the report that came forward in December, there was a list that was longer for, what we've identified for the 3 years. And then my last comment would be that in terms of staff capacity, I also want to sort of separate on day-to-day operations from project-based type of capital investments. And clearly, if we have a certain amount of capacity to focus on capital projects, so I'm not. Is it a capacity issue, or is it just our desire to get things done sooner? And they're a little different in nature, right? Because we did lay out a 3-year plan where we could address a backlog, but if we want it to be done sooner, then yes, we have to do something. We have to create capacity somehow. So those are just my high-level comments. Thank you.
Director McMahon, are you on?
Yeah, I've had the general impression that Parks was in a sort of a holding pattern for a lot of years, that the parks that were maintained, but not a lot of capital refreshment was done, and it's only recently that really the staff have been looking at our capital asset management. Is that a fair comment?
In recent years, staff have put together the inventory of all of our capital assets, and that's taken us a few years. And to date, we still discover the odd one, even recently, that we were unaware of. So we have spent a lot of time and effort pulling together that asset inventory, of which we now we know the scope. What we haven't, what we need to do, and one of the focuses of the Park Service Review is how do we want to classify those parks? And then what is the service level that comes along with that? Because that's been our challenge, is we haven't had identified an approved service level. So again, we're reactive in nature, or historically we've tended to this park this way, but not this park. So, the service review is about trying to formalize our parks in terms of classification, service levels, and then what do we need to resource that? So that's what that part is. What comes forward through budget is reactive. Typically, this park failed, this bridge failed, or projects that we identify are challenging areas, like say Baker's Beach, in terms of we see degradation through visitor behavior. So, but it hasn't been this plan. And to date, even our capital plan is, I believe we approve $300,000 a year and so all that does is help us pick 1 or 2 or 3 really critical things to chip away at. So we need to keep moving that needle. We're working closely with asset management around that. The Park Service Review will inform that planning as well. So doing our best to try and, like I said, move the needle on how we work. Thank you.
Director Gabius, you haven't had a chance to speak yet.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm hearing that directors are looking at option 1, adding a 0.5 FT. That comes attached to project budgets that total $871,000. And so the question, I know this would come likely at round 2, but could perhaps CAO, are there any sources of funding that we could und to offset taxation? Do we have a kind of a rough preliminary idea of how we could fund this $871,000? Yeah,
Creatively? CAO, would you like to respond?
We take that approach with every budget proposal. So based on this first initial step, we'll review all the sources of funding. There are some subsequent decisions coming forward to impact other sources of funds. For instance, the January 22nd COW, for instance, you're going to get an update on your gas tax report, but there's also some projects in flux. So yeah, we would tackle that as part of round 2 budget if a proposal is approved.
And I'm just going to quickly add in here that parks seem to be the most susceptible to emergency situations, so that these bigger 3-year plans do, by necessity, get pushed along because something very critical has fallen apart. And they just seem to be vulnerable to that. And the more we let this lie, the more expensive they get and the more critical those fixes seem to be. And, looking at, for instance, West Beach, where it is such a distinct park in terms of service to a specific community, but its role in that community is outsized, as it's one of the few options they have for a park. So there is no cookie cutter approach to this, and this is sort of speaks to how an external contractor should go in and just fix it, because each fix seems to be so specific, have all these details around it that how do we manage those unique aspects to it? So it was interesting looking at this and knowing this is really just the tip of the iceberg. These are our priorities that we've identified to date. So, Director McMahon, you'd like to speak further?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that a few of these things have been delayed for a long, long time, and I would be very concerned about delaying them yet again. Like the Seaview Cemetery expansion was on the back burner when I was elected in 2018, as was the repairs to the Cooper's Green boat ramp. And they're not going away. They need to be done. I'm particularly concerned about the cemetery. This is not a service that we can just ignore. So, I'll wait for somebody else to make a motion.
Director Lee.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation number 1 as expressed on page 64. That staff prepare R2 2026 budget proposals, including an additional staff resource that would include supporting the execution of, and it talks about A, B, C, D. I would add includes supporting, because hopefully we can do more than these with it.
So that's a specific amendment in the motion, Autumn? Could you just say what your amendment was, please?
It just that would include supporting the execution rather than would support. I'm hoping we can get more projects than this done with the extra staff.
So his intent was using the word including? Is that clear to the directors?
I could read it again if you'd like. That staff prepare R2 2026 budget proposals, including an additional staff resource that would include supporting the execution of, and then it's the 4 projects that are mentioned. So this would be the minimum, and hopefully we can do more.
Do I have a seconder? Director McMahon? Any comments, requests for clarification from the other directors? Director Bax.
So the motion as it appears with an amendment on the bottom of page 64 does not include the amount of additional staff resource. Would that be the 0.5 that's implied within the option 1?
Staff, they're in affirmative.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure that's clear.
Okay, I see no other comments or questions. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. So somewhat similarly, we're at 4.5, ports maintenance. Would you like to introduce it? GM Gagnon?
Thank you, Chair. I won't put Ken on the hot spot yet. Hopefully the report speaks for itself, but this is in response to a board resolution that was passed in November for us to bring forward some information on whether or not we feel that a budget lift at ports is required. And so in summary, what I tried to do was split this between what's operational repair and maintenance and then what's capital in nature, more major repairs and renovations that are required. So within our operating budget, you did approve a 5-year incremental increase a few years ago. So that's outlined on the first page of the report on page 88. So we are getting a budget lift in 2026 for our repair and maintenance. And then as it relates to our capital projects, I tried to outline kind of where those were at on the next page of the report. But I think I'll highlight that for what we affectionately call our quad project, that's the sort of the port's capital projects that encompasses 4 specific docks: Eastbourne, Halkett, West Bay, and Gambier. We call that our quad project. We know that we won't have enough budget to complete all of the repairs, and that's based on the learnings of the last year and a half. And the work that we've been doing on Hopkins and Keats has been very good, because it's helped us understand and get a better understanding of the impacts of working on water and some of the costs that come along with that. And it's helped us update our own itemized costing of what a typical dolphin might cost, or what a typical cross brace might cost. So we have a better understanding. We've said in reports sort of for the last couple of years, we know that we're going to run out of money. We're attacking them in terms of criticality. So once the West Bay float, that's our first priority. The next priority will be to address Eastbourne, because those are in terms of the condition. So we are working right now with our engineer to try, because we had to pause that project. We re-engaged the engineer once we had our position in place. And until we have a better understanding from an engineer in terms of the detailed design, and then we can cost that out, I don't know how much to ask for. So I don't feel that it's prudent of me to come forward and ask for just a blanket budget lift. I would rather come forward and ask for a budget lift based on the design and a cost estimate. So I know that's forthcoming, but we'll finish what we can with the existing dollars. And then we hope, the plan is that as part of the capital plan that will come forward in the fall, because that is our focus along with our asset management folks, to get that done, that what can't be addressed within the existing budgets will be the priority of the capital plan, that we hope that then gets endorsed in the fall, providing additional funds in 2027. So that's the approach, which is why we have not recommended additional funds at this point in time. And here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
I think I'll start. Just, I really appreciate how this was laid out, because I was the one that had requested whether or not, we had a problem needing solving, or, where we're at with that particular challenge. Putting it all in one place, I know we often, how we look at our budgets is in one lens, and often our questions, not only from directors, but from our communities, approach problems from a different lens. And so having this report sort of fully encompasses a lot of the questions that I've had in the community. So this is very helpful for me. And it is really encouraging to see those big jumps in the budget lift, although it implies the need of these aging critical infrastructures. So I appreciate this is just for information, but if anybody else has any comments, Director McMahon.
Yeah, no, it's good information and it's helpful. As always, it is difficult to find things. Like when you're looking for information about docks, which are called docks on our website, not ports. And if somebody is looking for this information, how do we, I mean, we're improving. The website is in a state of continual improvement. And I appreciate that all the docks are shown on the website with the interactive map, for instance. But we do need to set up breadcrumbs so that somebody can find that report without having to dig through every agenda we ever produced. So it's like work in progress, but to make this information more accessible. So I am now, foolishly, I did not do what Director Lee started when he was elected, which was taking every agenda point apart and refiling every report under its subject. I'm not going back and doing 7 years of that, but I have been gradually accumulating a lot of reports in files on my own desk about particular topics, especially topics in Area E. So I will tuck this away, but at some time in the future, it would be nice to somehow be able to accumulate key reports and information related to ports in one place where people can find them if they need to get some background material. Just a comment.
So that's maybe something we can bring up as part of communications and website. So I've pulled that and put that in my own files because I know it's going to be useful for me, and that's how we separate it out. So, so this was just for information. If there's no other comments or questions, this will also be part of budget discussions coming up. So, thank you. So our next is the Ports Committee minutes for information. And just again, as a person that participates in this committee, this is much more of a operational style citizens committee. It is well appreciated by the dock representatives, just for that sort of very clear. It's not based on principles or big policies. It's just what's wrong with this dock? How do we get it fixed? And I think that's actually quite refreshing to be part of that kind of discussion with a group, and they work quite well together. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that, unless there's any highlights from staff about that committee. Okay, so we'll just move on. Thank you very much, staff. We have no new communications, no new motions, no new business. We do have a short in camera, so if I could get someone to read us into camera, I appreciate it. I'm just trying to find out where it is. Does somebody have the description, or I could do it? I'll start it. I move that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91A of the Community Charter. Personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. Do I have a seconder?
Despite not being a municipality.
All those in favor? And we wonder where the confusion comes from. So that passes. If we could go into camera. Thank you. Good morning. We are coming out of the in-camera Electoral Area Services Committee portion. We're back into our open portion of the AS Committee. I'm just wondering if there's any, we have to adjourn the meeting. So if I could have a mover, please. Seconder, all those in favor to adjourn the meeting? That passes. Thank you. And if there's any questions from people in attendance on the gallery electronically? Seeing none, thank you for the entertaining meeting.